We are, you know the rest. Happy hump day, everybody. As you know, it's Wednesday, and what you can do today is take a look at your goals. Where are you? Are you falling behind? Are you crushing them? Are you speeding ahead? Wherever you are, don't stop. Keep plowing forward. Today's as good as any other day. Happy hump day. So, a couple of weeks ago, I started receiving DMs about our guest and what our guest was experiencing. We're not going to hold it against her, but I got the info from Facebook. Okay. So we're not going to hold, you already know how we all feel about Facebook, right? And these snake groups on Facebook. But if it wasn't for one of these groups, I wouldn't have come across her story. And I did touch upon this story a few weeks ago, and I said that I was hoping that she would accept the invitation and come share her story. And I think it's really important that we hear her experience. And all I ask is that you keep an open mind. And I don't think that her story is unique in that she's the only person to experience this with whom she experienced it, or that others may not be experiencing it as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring her out. I'll let her introduce herself, and we will start talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly of the reptile community.
Hello.
How are you?
I am excellent. How are you?
I'm tired. I'm tired. But you know what? I got you on, and that's exciting.
Oh yeah.
Why don't you introduce yourself real quick and let the viewers know who you are?
Sure. My name is Sydney. I am 24 years old. I live in Duluth, Minnesota.
Ooh, it's cold up there.
It's horribly shitty out today. It's been sleeting all day.
So I relocated up north. I'm on the other side, by the border, and yeah, I have a new respect for snow.
Yeah, it's cute around Christmas, but after that, we just slowly wait for it to melt away.
It's really not that cute. We went to gosh, one of the lakes. I think Lake Placid or Saranac Lake. One of the lakes that they do the whole ice castle thing and fireworks, and it wasn't even that cold that day. It was only like -3 or -4, and my wife and my son were like they were over it. Like they didn't even want to stay for the fireworks. I stood in the car. I had the excuse I couldn't find parking, so I stood in the car on my cell phone. They were like, "Come pick us up now." I'm like, "I haven't even seen the fireworks." They were like, "Get us out of here now." So yeah, it's not that cute.
No,
It's
it
not.
it sucks, especially now because it's April and it's still like, I think today was like 25 degrees. So it's getting old. We're all over it, but
So I'm in the whole roofing world, and we're on a very prestigious hotel roof right now, and there's still frost and ice up there.
I believe it.
Yeah, so we have to take like heaters and stuff and to melt it, and just like you said, we're in April, and this is not an April Fool's joke.
No,
The
it's
other
correct.
day, the other day I said, "Are we done?" Because I'm new up here. I've been here for less than a year. Actually, April will make 1 year. Wow, it's my 1 year anniversary is coming up.
Oh,
And I asked someone, a local, "Are we done with the snow?" And they were like, "Most likely not." And I'm like, "What do you mean? Like,
think.
haven't gotten the memo yet? Like, it's spring officially. It's spring." So you born and raised in Minnesota?
Yes, I've been here my whole life.
So my little brother was dating a woman from Minnesota. She was a wild one. You'd be surprised.
Oh yeah.
She was a wild one. So what happened to your arms there?
All my tattoos. Yeah, I'm a full-time tattooer, so we get bored and scribble on ourselves a little bit.
Okay, I see that you have eight-legged creature there on your right fist.
Oh, my spider. They used to be one of my biggest fears, so I was like, fuck it. I'm 18 years old. I can do what I want. I'm getting it on my hand. I'm going to be a tattooer one day anyways, so I'm lucky that worked out because my parents were not impressed with that one, but
Yeah, there's no turning back.
no, that was probably I think my fifth or sixth tattoo. I had just a couple other ones scattered and came home with this one, and the look that my poor mother gave me. I will
Yeah,
never.
that's a full commitment.
Yeah, I think that time I had maybe this little guy. This was my first tattoo. I had a couple little ones here and this one, and that was about it. So yeah, and I
Yeah,
came home with a little one maybe a month prior, and I got in very big trouble. Like, oh my god, I can't believe you'd get that on your hand. And then I show up with this one, and not a lot of words were said, but just the look of disappointment was. I will never forget. I love my mom to death. She's my best friend. So seeing that, luckily she's a little bit more understanding because I've even tattooed my mom. Now that I'm a tattooer, she doesn't care as much. But yeah, at the time she did not like that one.
did you give her first tattoo?
No, she had a couple. She had 2 tattoos up until I started tattooing, and now I think she's at 7 or 8. So
Well, then tell your mom she's a hypocrite. I'm sorry.
I know, right? She's talking about getting a half sleeve now. It's like, you were mad at me for this.
So my daughter and I have tats and piercings, and when my daughter, I saw her little tiny little like tattoo of my grandson's name on her wrist. I was so upset. I'm like, how dare you get it? We're hypocrites as parents. That's just what we do.
No, I imagine when I have kids one day, I'm gonna do the same thing, which would
No,
not.
probably not. You probably tattoo them.
I better be the person that gives my kid their first tattoo, or hell is gonna be raised.
So that's so cool. Matter of fact, I think we were talking about it off air. Rob is keeping it real. He was on my Bowling with Brian show. So I do this show every Wednesday. On Thursdays, we feature reptiles. Whoever my guest is will feature their ball python collection or reptiles. And on Friday, I do another show with a Canadian. Don't hold it against me that I hold bad company. Um, Jason of Canadian Reptile Adventures, and we do the Keeper's Corner, where we share best practices on breeding and keeping. But Rob is keeping it real. He has like 8 spiders all over him. Like,
Does he?
yeah, yeah. I'll send you his link and you'll see. Like he's tatted, but the thing that's crazy is that he's really into the snakes, but he has the spiders like everywhere.
That's how I am too. I don't own. I've thought about owning a tarantula, but I have no spiders. It's all snakes, lizards, just about whatever else, frogs. But yeah, my centerpiece is my freaking spider.
So how did that start? How did the reptile keeping start?
I think it's mostly because when I was a kid, I've always just been obsessed with animals. Animals have always just been my thing. I mean, even if you look at the majority of the tattoos on my body, they're all animals. And I was able to keep hamsters. My parents they even still have birds. Just about anything besides reptiles, except for one time I caught a garter snake in my yard, and I kept that until it escaped and scared the living hell out of my dad, and he made me release it. But up until that point, I had never owned any reptiles. So once I had moved out, and it was kind of like, oh shit, I can kind of do whatever I want. I decided to pick up my first few snakes, and the first one I ever got, I think I was just turned 18, and I picked up a normal ball python from PetSmart, and that did not last very long. I picked up that one, and then a few months later, I picked up like a little green snake. I can't remember the exact species, but yeah, I brought that one in my home, and then within a couple weeks, they were both dead. So from what I've heard, I know mostly imports from good old PetSmart, of course, but yeah, that was definitely a lesson learned at that point. But after those tanks were empty, I picked up a couple leopard geckos that I was told were both females. And then, of course, one day I had found eggs in the enclosure. So I was like, oh my God, what do I do? This is terrifying. I've never seen anything like this. I'm not sure where to go from here. And everybody that I'd asked about it were like, you got to go see this guy, Roger, in town. He owns this little store called the Snake Pit. He's basically the only guy Duluth, honestly, even the whole sports that does anything reptile related besides like pet corn. So I called him up, explained what happened. He gave me the whole spiel on how to care for them, to incubate them, everything. at that point, I think the first time I went in there, I stayed there for like 4 hours, basically the entire time that he was open, because he's just open on weekends. And then just kind of continued, like every weekend I'd pop in on like Saturday or Sunday and stick around for most of the day and just hang out and help out. But even still, I still go there almost every weekend. And if he's busy, he'll throw me the keys and have me help with handling animals or selling or just
So how many years has it been now?
That was, I was 19. I'm 24 now. So that's about, was that about 5 years.
Oh, okay. So, and that's awesome that you've maintained that relationship. Would you consider Roger like a mentor?
100%. I would not have, I mean, most of the animals that I've gotten where people would bring him to his store, whether it's like, oh my God, I got this leopard gecko and I've basically killed it because I don't know how to care for it. Here you go. He'll look at me and be like, well, you want it? And I can't say no. So, I mean, most of the animals in my collection are rescues that I've either gotten through Roger or just through people tagging me and stuff on like Facebook and whatever. It's being like, hey, Sydney, you should help this person out. You should do this. You know, you have the resources through Roger, who's been keeping and dealing with reptiles and animals for years. And yeah, he's taught me so much. I mean, he's one of my very best friends and just like a huge inspiration to me. I mean, anytime I have any question about anything, it's like it could be 3 a.m, I could text him and he'll be up.
That's all. That's awesome, and I think that that's huge. That the reality is many people do have uh, the less than successful experiences in the beginning.
Yes.
And to have a mentor there, you know, kind of like to guide you, and that you can bounce ideas off of is a huge factor in whether or not you'll be successful. And it also humbles us, right? That we're able to accept we don't know everything.
I know. Especially, I mean, knowing what I know now versus what I knew 6 years ago, walking into PetSmart thinking like, oh, yeah, I'll just buy a ball python. Like, like it's almost embarrassing saying that I did it, but I did it. I mean, when I first got my leopard geckos, they were in, you know, a 20-gallon enclosure on sand with a heat lamp, you know, everything that Petco tells you is fine to do. But then, you know, I go talk to Roger. He's like, this all needs to change. And now, sure shit, I've got 8 leopard geckos. I've successfully bred leopard geckos last year. It's just, I feel so much more comfort knowing how to correctly care for the animals that I'm gonna, you know, keep in my care. You know, it's almost like a selfish thing to keep reptiles in captivity. So I feel like if we're gonna do it, it's only fair that we do it the right way.
Yeah, it's definitely selfish. When we get into the breeding situation, it's kind of narcissistic where we're trying to play God.
Yeah.
With all the genetics and creating these mutations and but yeah, I go back almost 3 decades to when I first started keeping, probably around the same age you were when you started.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I had my boas and ball pythons and Burmese pythons on heated rocks, you know, in tanks, no, you know, with the open cage, no clips, you know, you would just always hope they'd be there underneath all the books that you left on top of the cage. And again, you learn, you know, through. Now, mind you, in my defense, unlike you, I didn't have the internet. I had we were just starting with the intranet, which was like if you were in a college, you can communicate online with other people because they had the .edu.
Oh my God.
Yeah, your emails or whatever .edu. That was like the beginning of the whole thing, you know, with the AOL dial up and the.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah, so it was a whole different world, but it's good, and it's good that you have a mentor. It's good that you've maintained that relationship, and again, to be able to admit that there was a learning process and a learning curve, and that at, you know, to a certain extent we are selfish, right, to keep these animals in captivity, but at the same time, I guess the flip side of the coin is they have an opportunity for a much better and longer life in captivity, right?
Absolutely.
If we're doing it the right way, they don't have to worry about prey, and they don't have to worry about, you know, weather conditions. They don't have to worry about not finding food. So there's benefits to them as well, right? Being in captivity. So what's your collection looking like these days? You said that you kind of have quite a few different animals from mostly rescuing and
Yes.
donations.
Yes. So my first one I ever got after the first, situation, that was a handful of years prior to me going through and getting more snakes. I'd gone to an expo, a reptile expo, with a couple friends that I met through that place. And I picked up my official first ball python, which is a little banana. His name is Gus. I think he's about 3 years old now. Um, I've got him. All my other ball pythons are since we've met. He's also gone into the hobby, so he's gotten a few himself. I've got, what else do I have? I've got a green tree python who I'm obsessed with, even though I'm mad about his existence. Corn snakes, king snakes, my baby hognose. Other than that, the snakes, I mean, I've got the leopard geckos, crested geckos, crocodile skink, fucking too many frogs at this point. I've got the dumpy frogs, tree frogs. I've got a Pac-Man named Frank that's about this. I've got a very old and senile hamster, if that counts.
So yeah, you seem to be a little bit across the spectrum.
I've got one of everything. And I've got the dogs. I've got 2 dogs. The boyfriend's dog is here, so 3. And I like to say I've got 1 3/4 cats, because I've got my regular cat and I've got a tripod. He's only got 3 legs, so he doesn't count.
Okay, I was like that one's yeah, you definitely have to explain that one to me. All right, so obviously you have a kind heart, you have a compassionate heart.
Absolutely.
If you're dealing, with animals with issues and still giving them the love and care, and it's not based on a price tag or a trendy morph or whatever the case is.
God, no.
And as far as the GTP is concerned, one day, I say when my son gets older, but one day we'll get one. I like boas.
Yeah.
But yeah, the GTP though is definitely, I just love the way they look and how they just chill, but they're nasty. Is yours nasty?
He hates everything. I could go to Philadelphia at me. It's like, dude, I'm trying to help you. He's always so funny at me ever since day one. I mean, he's gotten a lot better. I mean, when I first got him, maybe I'd walk past his enclosure and he'd try striking at me. But now every once in a while, he'll let me kind of mess around with his little area, and he doesn't get pissed until the very end. But he's come a long way. He got him. I got him when he was very, very little. He's finally getting some of his little green scales popping in. So
It's blue.
Well, it's mostly green right now. I'm not sure exactly. Same deal. He was a rescue, so I'm not exactly sure what his locality is. So it's a matter of waiting to see as he gets older what he's gonna look like, and fingers crossed he's a fucking cool one. I mean, either way he's gonna be sick, but I mean, if he pops out with some weird blues and shit, oh my god, I'm gonna be very excited.
That'd be a definitely nice little find there.
Yeah.
So you talked about the pet shop, but my first boa was spur of the moment impulse buy at a pet shop in a mall in my college town. And then ironically, about 15 years ago, I was in the same mall and the same pet shop, and I did it again. I still have her. She's 15 years old. She's about 20 pounds,
Wow.
9.5 feet long.
Holy
But
shit.
you just, I go to pet shops now, and I'm just like skeeved, and it just frustrates me to see the condition of the animals, from dehydration to cohabitating animals that are solitary animals, to bad husbandry, to everything else, and it's just so,
It's disgusting.
yeah, it definitely is. And then it wouldn't be probably if you didn't know better,
Yeah. Exactly.
but once you know better, it's definitely frustrating. But
Yeah.
we all start somewhere, and if it wasn't for these pet shops, I mean, most of us wouldn't have that first animal, unless you went to an expo and did the same thing, had an impulse buy, got the wrong animal, didn't know how to care for it.
True.
One of the things that frustrates me about the reptile community, like we say, we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. And one of the things I would consider bad, even at the expos, is obviously everybody's there for the main reason to sell.
Yes.
And they're not ideally selling to the best client. And there's rarely ever any care guides or any recommendations
No.
on how to care for the animal. They just want to get it out their display case.
Yep, which is very frustrating.
Now, another thing with the expos is, and one of the things my son is 10 years old. He has now been to 16 expos in 6 different states.
Cool. Very cool.
But we come home from an expo and it's like strip at the door, balls hanging. I mean, both of us are butt naked, strip at the door. My wife is used to it. We leave the clothes there. She'll pick them up and put them in a bag. She doesn't go anywhere near any of the snakes. My wife hates them.
Oh, no.
Yeah, she's never even touched a snake.
Oh.
So, you know, there's that risk that you can bring home mites, you can bring home, you know, a virus. So we try our best. We don't go into the rooms until after we've fully showered, etc. So
Absolutely.
you know, I guess there's good and bad in everything, right? So that's definitely some of the bad. But then again, there's the memories you're making. My grandson has been to expos. My grandson has his first snake.
There's nothing better than bringing someone to their first expo and watching them walk through that door and being like, holy shit. I mean, I remember my first one, the way that I felt. There's not a lot of times that I like recollect in my entire life that I had like that, oh my fucking God feeling of like, look at everything. I'm walking the table, seeing all the different morphs in person versus off of just fucking morph market was like mind blowing. Like I will never forget my first one. I mean, even still, whenever I do go to one, it's still just like, holy shit, this is fucking cool.
Yeah, it from the first one, and it's just like losing your virginity, smoking your first, you know, joint. It's like it'll never happen again. But then when you continue to go, and again, as you learn things, then you start appreciating other things even more when you see these crazy species and these ridiculous morphs that are out there, and how did they get there, and how did they make it. So I don't think it stops.
No.
Then if you go to a shitty expo, it's like, damn, this was a really shitty expo.
There's been a few.
I've been to a couple of those too, where I mean, I'll even put it out there. I've said it before. It was a Repticon in, I believe it was New Brunswick. It was in New Jersey, and it was disgusting. I mean, they only had a couple of ball python breeders there, and one of them, every animal looked so sick. I took photos. I posted it, and it was just atrocious. Matter of fact, I think I posted it on Facebook. Now that brings me to you.
Oh my God.
Okay. Definitely not a common thing. I've always been kind of on my own when it came to the snakes. I was born into it. My mother's brother, my uncle, had one. He had a boa when I was born. It was in the house. It was a big fight when I was born about getting rid of him, which is funny. You fast forward 30 somewhat years, same fight with my wife when my son was born. Like, get rid of her, get rid of that snake. She's going to eat the baby. She's going to eat the baby, you know? So I never, you know, we're just in a different day and age. And I think it's the internet that really helps connect people. Like, look, I'm having a conversation with somebody in Minnesota and we have similar passions.
Yes.
On my in my where no one did what I was doing. I was the guy with the snakes, you know.
Yes.
So when you have that ability to geek out on snakes or reptiles, it's like a relief, you know. Like you get to just be yourself and people understand you.
Yes.
So Facebook was my first connection in a reptile group. God. It was such a sweet and sour experience because it was so cool to see other people with snakes and to be around other people with snakes. And then it was sour and it sucked because most of them sucked. Most of the people in the group sucked.
Brutal.
You know, you had a whole bunch of, it was like a cult-like mentality. They all drank the Kool-Aid. You know, you talk about snakes regurgitating. That's all you got in these groups was like regurgitation on regurgitation. Like they would grab a sound bite, not know what the hell they're talking about. I love the people that would say, well, I don't have a ball python, but when I get one, you know, and want to educate you. And I'm just like, I've been keeping animals longer than you're alive. So it sucked. And then I came across Instagram.
Yes.
And it was different where you're kind of creating your own community on Instagram. So we always shit on Facebook.
I'm with you. Like I said, I wasn't much lately if I didn't need to be, but
So this is the irony. But if it wasn't for Facebook, and I laugh because as much as I shit on it, it's kind of like a train wreck. You don't leave the groups, you know.
all the ones that have pissed me off this week, I'm still in all of them.
You don't leave the grooves. It's like a train. It's like that car crash, and you're driving by, and you don't want to look, but you can't not look.
I can't look away.
No, you can't. You can't look away. That's Facebook. That's the Facebook reptile groups. So now let's bring it to how I came across your story. How I came across Sydney, right? A few weeks ago, I start getting DMs. So usually, whenever something happens, they call this show the Jerry Springer Show. They call it. They call me Judge Judy. The list goes on and on and on. And so I do get DMs about things that are going on that I may not have known about. So your story landed in my DMs from a few people, and I wasn't in the group. They were sending me the link. So now, you got to do the stupid answer the questions and this, etc. So I got in the group really fast, which was kind of scary because it's not. I know the last one, I believe was yesterday, which was a different group, unless I was on a different user page or something.
Mm-hmm.
But literally, it was seconds, and I was already in the group. I was like, "Oh shit!" And it says, "What's the rule? What's rule number one?" And I'm like, "Nobody talks about Fight Club." They still let me in, even though that wasn't rule number one. But it was like, you don't report anyone or anything. So I start getting these DMs about you, right? And I'm gonna let you kind of like maybe share I don't want to say what the DMs are about. It's obvious. It was about your story, and it was about a very well known pioneer, not even a breeder.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about a pioneer, and I'm old, and this guy goes way back to when I was young, and you really did, like I said, you didn't have the internet, so you got like magazines and you got like newsletters, and this guy's name was very big back then. So why don't you share a little bit about your whole buzz that's going on in these, and it's multiple groups. It's not one group. It's multiple groups.
So should I start by explaining just day one of the auction?
Go, yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, so God, this is going way back. So earlier this year, I guess I should bring it even further back. A couple years back, I had rescued a boa. His name was Mitch. He was about 6 feet long, kind of a grumpy guy. But
I don't think his name was Mitch. I think you named him Mitch.
Yeah. Oh, I named him Mitch. If you know the reference, you know the reference. Yeah, I got him. He was very thin. He was covered in a lot of burns. And I had him for about 2 years. I brought him back to full health. Finally, he shed enough times that the burns had eventually, the scars gone away, and got him eating. He went on a good old 7-month hunger strike for me, and eventually got him eating again. And I ended up giving him to his forever home earlier this year. A good friend of mine who deals with a lot of larger snakes. I don't want to get anything too big. I'm like 5'4". I don't want to get anything, that's gonna do too much damage. And he was still kind of a little bit aggressive, so I found a home for him. And I was like, damn, I kind of miss having a boa. So one day, just casually scrolling through Facebook, an auction pops up for 2021 female Motley boa from Bob Clark. And I was like, oh my God, she's beautiful. She looks exactly like a dream morph that I've always wanted. I've always wanted a very, very dark, beautiful boa. And I was like, this is perfect. I can get her, I can raise her from a baby, get her very adjusted to me and being around other people, just an animal that I'd want to bring everywhere with me. Because when I'd first gotten Mitch, he was kind of like that. It's just over time, he kind of got more aggressive with like the eating and stuff once he finally started eating. So I was like, damn, I'd love to do that again. So I commented on the auction. I think it was like 260 or something like that. not thinking anything. I was walking into Walmart at the time to buy groceries, and by the time I walked out, I got tagged in a comment saying, Sydney Barnett, you won. I was like, holy shit. I called my boyfriend. I was like, I just won a fucking Bob Clark auction. He's like, oh, I didn't even know you were, commenting. I was like, I didn't either. It just kind of happened.
Now, let me ask you something. You're younger. You're from the younger generation. When you got into this auction, did you know who Bob Clark was?
I've been following Bob for a couple of years. Actually, about a year prior, I had reached out to him for my boss's daughter who wanted a banana ball python. Went through, got the whole thing. She was shipped to us, and actually the ball python ended up dying after just a couple months as well. She never ate. I mean, typical ball python. She was young. We didn't think anything of it at the time. But no, I'd been following him. I've always admired his, everything he posts is fucking beautiful. I mean, like you said, he's a pioneer. The stuff he's literally created so many aspects of the hobby. So he's someone.
So for those that may not know who Bob Clark is probably, you can consider him the first commercial ball python breeder.
Mm-hmm.
Bob Clark, I'm pretty sure, is the person who had the first morph, which was an albino.
I believe so.
And I know my first morph was back in 97, 98. Were you born yet?
98, yeah.
So 97, 98 was my first morph, which was an albino Burmese python. And that, I believe, was a project with Bob Clark and Tom Crutchfield in the 90s. So when we're saying pioneer, today we're looking at, hundreds to thousands of morphs, at least in the ball python world alone. And you can say he is the first to bring something that wasn't what we consider today a normal, which I don't call them normal. I call them wild types or classics. But he is the original commercial breeder. So that's who Bob Clark is. And I would think it's safe to say he's approaching 50 years doing this.
Yep.
Okay. So just to put certain things into perspective, there aren't too many people. Well, to put into perspective, there is no one in the commercial reptile breeding world that has more experience than Bob Clark. So.
No, he's up there. He's one of the big guys.
Yeah, and you would think with nearly 5 decades of experience, he knows what he's doing, right? So let's talk about your auction and what type of boa was it?
Motley.
Motley, okay.
But yeah.
Sorry, you said that. I was paying attention. I'm just tired.
No, that's okay. But yeah, so I had through PayPal. And at the time there was some weird, so we're like, we'll just wait a little bit longer. And then I'll send her out to you in about a couple days when, we don't have to worry about any sort of shipping. At the time, this is January. I think the auction was on January 15th. And, January in Minnesota, 0 degrees outside. But I was like, is this okay? He's like, yeah, we'll be good. I'll send her, the heat packs, the whole ordeal. About a week goes by. I hadn't heard anything. So I reached out. I was like, hey, is the weather looking okay on your guys' end that we could possibly ship her out? And someone else responded and they were like, yeah, we'll get her sent out to you right away. What's your address? Blah, blah, blah. She'll be on her way tomorrow. And yeah, within a couple days, she arrived. I had her sent to the post office up the hill and picked her up, and then brought her to my place, and we had opened up the box. And at the time, I didn't think anything of it. I took her out. I was like, oh, look, she's beautiful. She looks fine. Right off the bat, as I'm holding her, she kind of keeps jetting up. And I've got videos of all of this too. As soon as she came out, I was taking videos of her while she was still in the bag. I mean, just holding her, everything. And she just kept kind of looking like she was wanting to look up. And I even got a couple of videos of her kind of tipping all the way backwards and kind of corkscrewing a little bit. So I messaged Bob and I was like, hey, she arrived. She's, she's beautiful. She seems pretty alert. Like, I noticed she's kind of tipping her head around a little bit weird. Maybe she's just loopy from travel. I'll keep you posted. He's like, yeah, just let me know if anything comes up. Thanks for your business, whatever. So get her set up, put her in her enclosure. Obviously,
so day one, you got good communication. You're getting good customer service.
Yep. At this point, he's still responding to me pretty abruptly. I mean, beforehand, of course, the people that sent her out were same deal. They were pretty on top of it, but it definitely wasn't Bob that I was talking to through for a little bit.
Okay.
Everybody had been just fine up until that point. But yeah, so I brought her home. I put her in her enclosure, left her alone like you're supposed to. Of course, I'd ordered a PVC enclosure, but you know the turnaround times on fucking PVC shit, especially up here, it takes months usually. But I'd ordered one. I had her in a long 20-gallon in the meantime, in the room with the frogs, where you know ambient temperature is about 75. She had her heat pad underneath with the thermostat and everything. You know, there's humidity drops and spikes throughout the day, just to make sure that you know the entire room is suitable for a tropical animal. That you know, of course, Bob doesn't want to mention that part, but either way, yeah, she was set up in her temporary enclosure, and I left her be. Every time I'd go and check on her over the next few days, I had noticed, and even telling the progression in like the photos that I've taken, the first couple days, she was sitting kind of just tipping her head up, kind of like an angle like this, kind of just looking up and kind of breathing. You can see like under her chin, the breathing was kind of, it was weird. Something kind of seemed off. So I messaged Bob and I was like, hey, I sent him a video. I was like, this was exactly a week after she arrived. I said, hey, she's breathing a little weird. She looks like she needs to shed, but she hasn't really made any attempt. She also hasn't eaten. Do you have any advice? Am I just freaking myself out as, you know, this is my first baby boa? And he says, no, she just needs a shed. She'll be fine. So I was like, okay, you know, I'll leave her be. Maybe she just needs a shed. Snakes do weird shit. I'll leave her be. But at this point I was already kind of getting a little bit suspicious. And I'd taken a video and I'd posted it in a different boa group that I'm in, just kind of asking for other people's point of views. And
what was it called? Garbage disposals for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, this is, you know, she hasn't eaten. This is what she looks like. What do you guys think? And people were commenting, you know, it could be a respiratory infection. It could be IBD, you know, people jumping to extreme conclusions immediately. And then one person,
that's really bad.
Yeah, seriously, just from that first video. But one person comments, and I feel like a fucking idiot for not noticing it. But up until this point, I have never seen mites. I've never seen mites in person. I've only seen photos. I've only seen videos. I mean, even if you Google like mites on a snake, there's not a whole lot out there. But in the comments, someone said you should check her for mites. It kind of looks like on the side of her head, something looks a little bit weird. So I checked her out, and I kind of was looking as she was stargazing, and she kind of tipped to the side a little bit. And then you could start to see like the rows and rows and rows. Like it was so extreme to the point where like, maybe if it was like a couple little specks, I would have eventually sooner noticed like, oh shit, could that be mites? But the way that it was so consistent, I thought it was just her patterning. You know, I was
gonna say, how would you miss that unless it was so pronounced that it looked like part of the pattern?
Yep.
And you mentioned that when you got her, you were leaving her alone. You put her in her enclosure and leave her alone, let her settle in.
Yep, I wasn't gonna bug her. I planned on not even touching her for about a week, just because I didn't want to stress her out anymore. Because at first, you know, I didn't want to jump to conclusions with her acting loopy. So I was like, oh my god, she's probably super stressed out. You know, when she arrived, she was definitely a little bit cold, as it's fucking 0 degrees outside. I was like, I'm just gonna let her settle in, let her warm up, let her do her thing, and then we'll take her out and check on her. But yeah, and after, you know, once someone had mentioned you should check for mites, it kind of almost looks like she's got some stuff going on. Sure shit, I went and I investigated further, and like I said, I didn't even know what to look for. Even as like, and I'd first checked on her, I was like, are those mites? Like, because of the way that they were so pronounced. I had to send a video to my friend Roger that owns that place. I was like, is this what I think it is? And he's like, it kind of looks like. He says, and he even said, he's like, it's kind of hard to tell because of how many they are. Because I mean, you've seen snakes weird belly patterns. Even one of my corn snakes, at first, after I'd gone to check every single one for mites, I thought the one did, because she had the same type of patterning on her belly, but it was just her pattern. So I was like, I didn't even fucking know. And even the dude that's been breeding snakes for fucking 30 years and runs the one reptile place in town, he's like, it's hard to tell because it's so much. So I took her out, I put her in her enclosure,
they're embedded in the scales.
Yeah, they were so far in that unless she had turned her body, it was almost hard to see them, up until, you know, you could see them around her face and up in like this kind of area that, you know, like I said, until I had looked further, just because I had never seen mites before. And I mean, even looking back at the photos I had taken of the first day that she arrived, of like her in the bag, you can see fucking mites in the bag. And like I said, I feel like a fucking idiot for not noticing it, but I was like, oh, it's just lint. You know, they were so fucking small and I had never seen it. I take full, you know, error for that, for not noticing right away. But Like I said, I just
Well, when it comes to mites, and that's why I told you, my son and I, we come home from expos and we strip at the door. They're they're nearly microscopic, and it you just have to assume that there's that chance, and that's why we do what we do.
yeah,
And that's why every animal, and you mentioned this is what you were doing, every new animal that's being brought into a home, into a collection, should be quarantined. We do minimum 90 days.
yes,
Um, but please continue, because sometimes 90 days is not enough, but continue. So I don't think that you need to defend yourself. If anyone doesn't understand how you didn't recognize them, then they haven't dealt with mites before. And most people that have been dealing with reptiles for a nice amount of time, at some point or another, have dealt with mites. I can't imagine anyone saying they've never dealt with mites. Someone that says they've never dealt with mites, that has a large collection, has gotten animals from different places,
yeah,
and has been doing it for over 10 years, probably has mites right now in their life. So, but I definitely understand, and I just want people to know, like, if you see something like you said that looks off, assume the worst. Okay, assume the worst. Treat it as you have it. Quarantine, isolate the animal. Don't take anything for granted. And we're talking Bob Clark. We're
yeah,
we're talking Bob Clark here. So who would think, right?
exactly.
If he didn't have a pretty decent reputation right now for mites, and we'll talk about that later. But go ahead and continue. You saw the mites in the bag. You
Yeah,
reached out to Roger, your mentor, and shared photos. I just want to share. I've seen many of these photos. It's scary. It's really scary to see the condition of the animal, and pretty much there's been some form of documented proof of everything that we're hearing, and that is the reason why I was willing to invite you on the show, because I've seen everything that you provided. So if you could just continue, please.
yeah. So at that point, I'd put her in a tub to soak and start treating for the mites. The whole time she was in the water, and usually when you put a snake in the water, snakes don't fucking like being in water. She sat perfectly still and just stargazed the entire time she was in a fucking tub to soak. Within this amount of time, I'd taken a couple videos, which I'm sure you have seen as well, or at least screenshots of when she had curved and you could actually see the mites. I mean, from the naked eye, I literally had to zoom in with my fucking phone to be able to even tell if it was a mite. It wasn't until I had one standalone and I picked up with my finger, zoomed in with the camera, that I was able to be like, holy shit, it's fucking moving. It is a fucking mite. Like I said, I had no fucking idea what they looked like. I was Googling like what the fucking snake mites look like. Like I had no idea. And it just, even after soaking her twice a day fucking for 3 days, it was just, they were not fucking coming off. They were like, I've heard people refer to the term super mites, and that's fucking what they were. I mean, they were just so embedded in her. It wasn't, they weren't coming off. At this point, luckily all the other snakes were separated from where she was at, and we had checked everybody else. There were no mites on anybody else at the time. But a couple
Just
days,
for the record, when you say you've heard the term super mites, guys, that's said to be the mites that come from Bob Clark,
yeah, that's
because
the thing.
yeah, it's a term that many have referenced Bob Clark for having,
Yeah,
the super mites, because nothing kills them. They're,
no, not right
they're
home.
immune. After all these decades, they're immune. There's other long-standing jokes. Um, you pay for the snake, but the mites are free. So there's a lot of this isn't isolated to this situation. So again, don't take things for granted. So go ahead.
But yeah, after we checked everybody was clear. But about 3 days later, there's a black-eyed Lucy, one of my ball pythons. His name is Morpheus, who was close to the door of the snake room, and we found a few mites on him. So those mites from the boa directly went through into that room. And at this point, I had already been treating everybody, because as soon as I found the mites, I went to the fucking store. I reached out to Roger. I was like, "What do we use?" He gave me the whole ivermectin concoction to mix up, and do that whole fucking stupid expensive ordeal. And I was already treating them. I had fucking pest killer outside of the room just to see, hopefully to block off that door, just anything to make sure they didn't get in, and they still fucking got in, and they still got on that ball python. But luckily, he's same deal. As soon as we found that separated.
You said it's a bell?
What's that?
You said it's a bell?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's easy. It's unlike the boa, it's easy to see them on a bell.
Very easy, thank God. I mean, he's solid white, and immediately we're like, oh fuck. Like, even before we went and checked everybody else, you could see them standing out. But yeah, we separated him. And at that point, we hadn't seen mites for a couple weeks prior, which was good. But at this point, yeah, we separated him, started treating him, and was treating her at the same time. And at this point, I was soaking her, and I'd noticed, you can even see in the pictures, like the stuck shed, like around the eyes and on the face, even upon arrival. I mean, you can see where the shed is on her. So I was like, fuck, she must be, miserable. I can't get these mites off. I was trying to pick them off with like tweezers, just soaking her, just trying to get anything to help them come off. And it wasn't working because she had so many layers of stuck shed. I mean, I think this was the night before she had passed. I was holding her, and I was trying to help peel the shed off, and I started at the tip of her tail and I pulled 1 layer, 2 layers, 3 layers, and I fucking wish I had the photos of this, because this is one of the few things that they've come back and been like, you said you made a ridiculous claim about the fucking stuck shed, and I fucking wish I had pictures of it. But I mean, in the grand scheme of things, that's on the lower end of what's horrible about this situation. But yeah, fucking 3 layers of of stuck shed until, I mean, it got to the very, very front of her face, and she was noticeably getting uncomfortable. And even as I was holding her, she was starting to feel more limp. Like she felt like, I can't even explain like how she felt in my hands at this point. This was probably about, I think it was about 17 or 18 days in. Just holding her felt like she was hollow. It like, I wish I had a fucking something to reference it to, but almost like if when you were a kid and you have like a bag of like pencils or markers and like those cloth like zipper bags, right? And imagine you have one and there's maybe a couple markers in it, just feeling how it's empty, but you can kind of feel a little bit of solid something, like the bones. Like, that's what it was. It was like she was limp and hollow. It was like, I just wish I had a better way to explain it, but just holding her.
That's the only way to explain it. It's when a snake is near death.
It was like nothing I've never felt that. My fucking heart just ached for her as I was holding her. Like, it was like I said, I wish I had a better way to explain it, but it was just, I could just see in her eyes, she just seemed weak. I mean, as soon as I had done trying to get as much shed off her as I could, I put her back in her enclosure. And even as the way I had set her, she had just laid like that for a couple hours until eventually she made her way back into like her little hide that I had put in there for her. But no, the next day was Valentine's Day, and we had gone, boyfriend and I went out to dinner. I checked on everybody before we had left. She was okay. She was breathing. She had moved around a little bit. Sorry, boyfriend's home. Yeah, she'd moved around a little bit. Went out
just
to
let the dogs know you're doing the show right now.
Right now, he knows we're good. But no, as soon as, before we left, checked on her, everybody was good. And by the time we got back, maybe an hour and a half later, she was dead. And that was exactly 21 days after she had arrived.
This was on Valentine's Day?
Yep. Happy Valentine's Day.
Wow. Well, you know what? I'm not a fan of Valentine's Day. It's a Hallmark holiday, and you women, you get the benefit from it. And it does start with a massacre, but wow, I definitely wouldn't want to come home to that. And the reality is, it's something that's going to be, it's something that's not easy to forget, but it's definitely not, it's going to be a memorable day every Valentine's Day. So I'm really, really sorry that you had that experience, but gosh, that's just, it kind of ruins a really special moment. It ruins a special day, at least for women. Like I said, I'm anti-Valentine's Day, but I can definitely understand. Now, my wife isn't anti-Valentine's Day, so
she probably loves it. Most girls do.
I'm forced into that Hallmark holiday nonsense. But I can see where, like, it's going to be something that's not going to be easy to let go. We could say it could be traumatic. I mean, so you got the snake. It had mites.
Mm-hmm.
You said it was stargazing.
Mm-hmm.
You said it had issues breathing.
Yes.
21 days in.
Yes. Exactly.
Animal dies
Yeah.
in 3 weeks.
Yeah. And even
Wow.
died too. I have a picture of her. As soon as the way I had found her, I mean, just the way that she had died, it looks like, which is really fucked up. I hate this part, was it looks like she was stargazing and then just kind of tipped over and was done. Because she wasn't like a weird kind of contorted.
Oh, now we're gonna go back. Now, earlier in this interview, you mentioned you had snakes die on you before.
Yep.
Okay, so what's the difference now from when you first had snakes die on you?
Well, honestly, now that I've had the confirmation of what we've gotten from the boa, looking back at the symptoms that were shown in those first snakes that I had back when I was 19, I'm fairly certain that that little green snake brought some sort of there was some sort of illness, and I remember coming in and seeing that little ball python stargazing. And like I said, it was within a couple weeks that that ball python had died, and then shortly after the little green snake died too. I was told that those green snakes, they're wild caught, so I don't know what it could have had. I mean, it could have brought anything in, but I usually, when I explain the situation to people, I believe it was IBD. Just from what I remember, how that snake would act. I mean, she was okay up until that green snake came into the house. She had eaten from me a couple times. Um, she was very active. She was very sweet. There was no weirdness up until that other snake came into the house.
Another difference is you didn't quarantine back then.
Nope. I
You didn't have 6 years of keeping experience.
mm-mm.
So I think there's a huge difference between this situation and your first experiences.
Yep.
Um,
The top shelf and the green snake was immediately on the bottom shelf.
right. So again, like I said, unfortunately, a lot of our learning experiences do come with uh, bad situations.
Yes.
But this is 6 years later. This is you've had the bad situations. You've had mentorship.
Yes.
You don't want to go through those experiences again.
No.
You took measures to prevent, this from happening again.
Yeah.
You quarantined the animal. You didn't introduce it to your other animals.
Mm-mm.
That didn't keep mites from spreading. Again, it's could be on your clothes. It's very, very common that once you got them, that's why you treat everything. As soon as you find mites, you treat everything because it could be in your hair. It's just so easy for them to travel. They
Yeah.
don't fly, by the way. They just are like the world's greatest jumpers. People think mites fly. Mites don't fly. They just have like ridiculous ups. Um, so the animal dies. What happens next? I mean, obviously, it's a traumatic experience. It ruins Valentine's Day forever. It doesn't just ruin that Valentine's Day. It pretty much ruins Valentine's Day forever.
Yeah.
Uh, so what happens next?
Um, at that point, I took that photo and I'd sent it over to Bob. Um, Prior to this happening, I had messaged him, I think, 2 times in that week, sending him videos of her stargazing and kind of acting weird. And just being like, hey, I really think something's up. Like, this isn't right. Most of his responses were, I'm out of town. I'm a little bit busy. I'll get to this as soon as I'm home. I sent you a healthy animal. I'm not totally sure what's up. Eventually, when he saw the video of the mites, he says, I personally inspect every single snake before it goes out of my facility and pre-treat. So there's no way the mites came from me. I'm trying to think what else he had said. Just a handful of, things to deflect the situation. I was like, well, she didn't get mites from my house, because at that time there was nothing on anybody else. I was like, I don't think the mailman gave her mites, especially to this level of what they were. But no,
And again, you have a video from day one where you can see mites in the bag.
yep, and I made sure to take a screenshot of it so it was dated. I was able to circle with my little editing app, and I've got proof from day one, even videos of her stargazing as soon as I'm holding her, taking her out of the enclosure or her bag. Just from day one, there were symptoms that he just denied and said she just needs a shed. She's fine. Even the mites, he said, there's no way they came from me. The stargazing, same deal. She just needs to shed. I send you a healthy animal. I, personally inspect everything, which wasn't true because I had talked to somebody else in the messages who shipped her out. So I don't know why he even went with that because that's obviously bullshit. But yeah, he had said that.
Well, to have a breeding operation at that level, I doubt it highly. He has the time to inspect
No,
every animal before it goes out,
no.
and honestly, I've mentioned it before, and I hate the reality is that once you get to a certain level, these guys are flipping snakes. Sometimes they never even go to their facility,
Yep.
or they're pulling them in from somewhere else, or they're buying somebody else's clutch or somebody else's litter or whatever the case is, and they smack their name on it, just like
Yep.
anything else that gets bought and sold. They're just living. All right, so he's doing the deflection. You've sent him videos. You sent him um, pretty much evidence. You've explained the scenario. You had
Yep.
communication with him prior. We're talking exactly 21 days from the arrival of the snake. Um, that's progressive, and you haven't mentioned it yet, but definitely progressive of certain things that can kill boa or ball python. Ball python is usually a little bit quicker,
Yes.
um, but what takes place? You're getting deflection. You're not getting answers right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what's the next step?
Um. So at this point, I basically said to him, like, she's dead. Like, what are we supposed to do now? Like, she'd been acting weird. She arrived. Something hasn't been right. Um. I was like, what do you want me to do? And he had said, if you truly believe I sent you, if you truly think that this is my fault or I'm to blame, I can't remember exactly how he worded it, but something like that. I can offer a replacement. And I said, Bob, with what I'm kind of suspicious about from what I think the snake died from, it's like for the symptoms that she was showing, plus treating my entire collection from mites. I don't really think I want to bring another snake into my house that's from your facility. Even if it was from someone else, like I don't want to bring anything into my house right now while everybody's at risk and could get mites. It's not an ideal situation to get another snake, especially from the same person that sent me the first,
And
dying.
this is a traumatic experience, so it's definitely understandable.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And he says, well, I sent you a healthy animal. I don't believe this is my fault. What happens to animals out of my care is out of my control. I can offer you a refund if you agree to my terms. And I was basically like, what are you implying? And the whole conversation is out there. It's all been screenshotted. I've posted it. But long story short, he says, if I give you a refund, we go back to how we were before we had any contact, any sort of communication. I can't give you any more than what you gave me. I don't want to deal with you. I don't want to deal with the situation. I just want you to go. What else would he had said? He'd spieled off a few different things, but basically saying, I'll give you a refund if you agree to my terms of basically pretending this didn't happen. I mean, everything that he had said, every message regarding the refund and his terms was implying and basically saying you getting your money back means that this didn't happen without saying exactly that, if that makes sense. He was basically trying to twist the words in every single which way that he possibly could without me being able to post it like this is blackmail. Like he basically said, like,
I'll give you your money, but I'm putting a gag order on you.
yes, it wasn't an actual refund. It was, if I give you your money back, this goes back to, we had no contact. This didn't happen.
We're rewinding the clock. You never won the auction.
Yeah. So when he's basically at first I was
I need to say it. Fucking Facebook. Told you.
Yep. Yep. And at first I was almost like, maybe he's just saying that. But until he said, I can't give you any more than what you gave me, I was like, that is something that he could be saying. That way, if this escalates to what I thought it was going to escalate to, and we end up in court, and he could, this is all just what I've read online of what people have experienced in the past is he'll delete any evidence of purchase, he'll delete conversations, he'll block people, he'll do everything he can. That way, when, they bring up like Bob Clark sold me this sick animal, he's like, where's the proof? And, anything on his end, it's just not there. So I was like, I'm really, really worried. I told him this. I was like, I'm very, very worried about IBD. You know how IBD works, Bob. If this snake has that and it was introduced even into my home with the way that shit spreads, my entire collection's at risk. I was like, just because you give me a $300 refund isn't gonna, bring back my snakes if I end up needing to euthanize them all because of what you sent to my home. And I was like, I'm gonna send her in. I'm gonna bring her to the vets, send her in, and you're gonna have to bear with me. I always pronounce this wrong. The necropsy, is that how you pronounce it? I feel like I pronounce it wrong every time.
It's basically a reptile autopsy, yes.
Yeah, yeah. So I was like, I'm gonna send her in for one of those, and I'm not gonna agree to any of your terms until I know that my collection is safe, because I don't want there to be an instance where, if this does go to where, it might go, if that's the case, if the judge was to say, did you agree to his terms? And I say yes, case closed. I've heard fucking horror stories of shit like that happening. Just a simple, non-disclosure agreement, regardless of whether it was.
Two things, Sydney. Number one, for those that don't know what IBD is inclusion body disease. It is 100% fatal. If your animal is diagnosed with IBD, well, first off, if you think your animal has it and you send out for testing, chances are the animal will be dead by the time you get the results. And when it comes to boas, you're looking at a couple of weeks. And if you did test early and it was discovered, it's recommended that you euthanize the animal. It's guaranteed they're going to die. And it is contagious, and will threaten your entire collection. Now, based on what you're saying, and again, it's not hearsay because there are screenshots, there are photos of the animal, there are screenshots of the conversation. I mean, this really got crazy. I mean, we're just cracking this open. I couldn't believe what I had seen. I've read every comment on the initial thread. You would think that someone with such a reputation, with so many years experience, that if this never happened, there'd be some sort of shock and concern for their animals and their collection. But the responses that I'm hearing are kind of like, this is just standard operating procedure, which means it's happened before.
Yep.
I mean, that's how it sounds. I'm not saying it is. I don't know of other situations until I hear of yours where apparently this wasn't an isolated situation and others took the refund. Others agreed to the terms. They stood shut, where some are actually talking about it now. What made you decide to speak about this publicly?
As soon as he blocked me after expressing my concern for the safety of my existing collection, he never once apologized for anything. There was no sympathy. I mean, even one of the messages, I was like, I'm fucking terrified my animals are gonna die. He responds, how did you pay? Like, not once did he fucking acknowledge, the concerns for the IBD. All it was deflecting. And then after, I mean, same deal, the whole conversation's out there. My last message to him was a fucking mile long, just expressing my worries and explaining why I can't agree to his terms because of the risk my animals are in. And he fucking blocks me. He blocked me on Facebook. He blocked me on Instagram. I tried to call his facility, trying to even just get a hold of him, just be like, dude, what the fuck? Can we talk? And nothing. My number won't even go through.
So did he block you because you're a silly girl?
Probably.
And I think you know why I'm saying that.
Yeah.
Like I said, guys, it's just an onion. It's just an onion that you just keep peeling and peeling and peeling. And you did post on Facebook. You did share your
Yep.
text messages, you did share your photos. Now
Yes.
all of a sudden, um, you're getting attacked by someone on Facebook.
Well, fuck, let's even go a little bit further back. I mean, the first review that I had posted was before I even got the results back. I mean, just explaining with the mites and my concerns for, what had happened and just the way that he had handled it. I mean, that alone had gotten so much traction. A lot of people were commenting like, "Holy shit!" Let's see where this goes. What did the autopsy results come back as? A lot of people were sharing that it took almost 3 weeks to finally get everything back because it took them so long to just kind of pinpoint everything that was wrong because there were so many things. Um, and at one point, it's still on there too on the initial review. You can't find it on Bob's Facebook anymore because he hid the reviews from his page because he was getting so many negative ones. But luckily, I have the link because I had posted it, and it's still on there. There was this mysterious account that popped up. Nicole Johnson was the name. No friends, just a generic profile picture. And at first, they were asking just like normal questions about the situation, like why did you make this accusation about the IBD? And Bob Clark's usually been a class act guy. And eventually, it kind of got to the point where they're like, eventually, okay, let me step back a little bit. After about a week and a half, I'd gotten a call from my vet, and she said, "Hey, I just want to let you know I just got a call from the institute down in Minneapolis. IBD was confirmed." So at this point, I was like, "God damn it!" I'm fucking bawling on the phone to my vet, and I go and I comment on the post. It's like, "I just got a call. IBD was confirmed."
Prove
And
it.
yep, and this exactly the Nicole Johnson. She's like, "Where's the proof?" And I was like, "Well, I just got a call. They're not even done completing it yet. They just wanted to let me know so I can, make sure to be extra careful between each of my animals." She's like, "Why don't you post it?" I'm like, "I don't fucking have it yet." And every single day, she had commented the same fucking thing over and over and over until eventually it gets to the point where she's making these a little bit more snide remarks. Like, "Why would you fucking say that? That's a huge claim. Bob Clark's a class act man. You're a vile human being for even, saying this. You're disgusting. You're an idiot. Just call me names. Just all these fucking things." Um,
I just want to share what I saw. This is a young girl profile. It's
mhm.
a stolen photo.
Yes, which
Um,
exact profile from about I think it was 2016 off of some hair salon in somewhere over.
yes, yes. Somebody's hair salon. Girl just got a haircut.
Yep.
It was a stolen photo that was verified through Google Images.
Mhm.
Zero friends. This is
Mhm.
the only activity. And at one point, she's definitely a millennial. She by the photo, she falls into that millennial demographic, the millennial generation, and she's bashing millennials.
Yep.
Okay, so the irony that this person is bashing millennials and is using the photo of a millennial. Now, at this point, you've already identified this is Bob Clark, or there's a strong. Let me correct that. There's a strong assumption
Yeah.
that this is Bob Clark, and based on the language being used, based on the style of responses,
Yeah.
based on what's being said, and it's not just you; it's numerous people, and I fall into this category where I believe that this is Bob Clark responding, accusing, attacking you
Mhm.
under a fake Facebook page. And it
Yes.
gets even better
Yep.
because just based on the responses, just based on the style of the response that very similar to how he would respond, based on attacking millennials while it's a millennial in the
Yeah.
profile photo,
Yeah.
there's a nail in the coffin.
Yeah. That was the first one at least.
So why don't you explain that where it's kind of like you can't deny this is you, Bob.
Yeah. I mean, there was a few paragraphs that they had written where it was like, "Bob's a pioneer in the industry. He's a class act man. He's a great human being. He's great with kids. He cares for his family. He's an amazing, smart human being who loves his animals." He would like just shit like that. It's just rambling on and on
I
and on.
saw the conversation, the person says.
Yep. Yep. He's like, and I was, yeah, that's when it was. And they're like, why don't you post the whole conversation, Sydney, to expose your side of things? I was like, I I would if I could, but at this point, the review was taken down, so I couldn't comment a video like that. It would not let me comment any videos at this point on the review. So I was
And you're
like,
saying, if I could, I would.
yes, I was like, I fucking wish I could so I could expose the whole thing. I was like, the only part on my end was probably that I was a little bit pissed off, but at this point, I hadn't called them any names. I wasn't being shitty. I was just basically like, you're lying about this. You know, the result, the proof is here, Bob. And then he had blocked me, and I was like, I wish someone could fucking post it that way I could, so people could see. And they were like, oh, what if I told you that I had it? And I was like, post it, go ahead. And it's like, oh, I think I'm about to be blocked. I don't think you want me to do that, Sydney. I don't think you want me to expose you. I'm like, please fucking do it. And then sure shit, a couple hours later, a fucking screen recording of my entire conversation with Bob is posted in the comments by this Nicole Johnson profile. The only person besides me to have that conversation on their phone is Bob. The only way that someone would be able to see that is if they were able to log into Bob or Bob sent it to them. But why would Bob Clark go out of his way to screen record the entire conversation and send it to this Nicole Johnson, obviously fake profile with no friends, for them to post?
And the proof is in the screen recording.
The thing is, I was like, everything that you just shared continued to prove everything that I've stated above in the whole thread. It was basically me expressing my concerns. The first conversation I had with him, saying I'm a little worried she's acting loopy. Him, offering the refund for the terms. It basically just confirmed everything. I was like, thank you for posting that. I don't know why you thought that was going to benefit whatever you're claiming, but thanks, I guess. But yeah, the same thing is like, I'm not Bob. Bob sent this to me. And then eventually, once I was able to post a screenshot of the report, the full report, the account is gone. It fucking magically disappeared. They stopped replying to anything, even though they were so adamant on, where's the report? Where's the report? Where's the report? As soon as I posted, they had nothing to say. The messages in the comments are still up there, but they have not. Nope. They did say, actually, about a week ago now, a comment from that account popped up just stating some bullshit that I responded to and shut it down. Just regarding the entire situation again. But other than that, nothing. Not once has that account or Bob's account commented on the report that's been shared. That's confirming IBD and emaciation.
Show me the proof. Show me the proof. Show me the proof.
Yep. Show it and then they're gone. It's like all of a sudden it's like, oh fuck, she actually has the proof. So
right. So I saw that. Again, it's been a few weeks now. Mm-hmm. My gosh, now you're going on. You're soon approaching 2 months. There's been no resolution.
Nope.
My DMs start buzzing again. That's why I reached out to you again. My DMs start buzzing again, and I look and I'm like, whoa, I'm not even in this Facebook group. And I get into the Facebook group, and I screen record myself because often these things disappear.
Yep.
Okay. And I was watching the new MacGyver, which to me it sucks compared to the original MacGyver, but my son is into it, my 10-year-old son, and we're watching MacGyver, and he asked me a question, and I'm like, hold on, I'm reading something, mm-hmm. And I start reading, and I'm screen recording the thread. Mm-hmm. 45 minutes later, I'm still recording. So we're 400 plus comments in at that point. And I'm like, wow, now this is not the Nicole Johnson fake account.
Nope.
This is Bob Clark.
From his personal account.
Bob Clark started the thread with an attempt to what I would consider attack you. Mm-hmm. And it really backfired.
Huge.
It was 98%, and just like everybody else that claims statistics, this is inaccurate because I didn't really quantify this, but 98% supporting you and people just wondering, what the fuck, Bob?
Yeah.
And it was not just this situation, it was the misogyny, it was
gross.
Girls attacking girls and referring to women as girls over and over again.
Yeah.
referring to anyone that wasn't a female, almost like a girl, because they were in agreement with the majority of the comments that were coming from women.
Hmm.
And to the other two guys agreeing with the girls, and um, this was sad.
Yeah, it was embarrassing.
This was sad, and it's kind of like when you see someone, and I mentioned this a few weeks ago on this show, that when I first saw it, that I wanted to have hope. Um, Guys, we're talking about 5 decades. We're talking about the man that we can claim to be the godfather of this whole morph thing.
Yeah,
But it just looks like a huge downward spiral.
yeah.
Um, where are we now? Where are we? I can't imagine what you're going through now. Gosh, that your Facebook alerts must be ridiculous.
Even as we're talking, they're still going.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Like I said, I mean, that's one thread. There are multiple threads in different groups about this topic.
Yeah, and the other
And
ones are,
you're in them. Your account is in them. That's how I came across you, that your account is actually in these threads. And it's just something that's kind of like a constant reminder of the bad situation you're in and what you went through.
yeah, hasn't been great on the mental health, to say the least, for someone that's
Right.
pretty bad anxiety.
Do you have any mental health issues?
My basically, I was diagnosed with PTSD, but it creates a lot of anxiety. So I'm being treated for anxiety, but it's PTSD induced. It's kind of a weird fucking. I had some shit when I was younger. Um, I don't want to get into it too much, but yeah,
No, but
very
I appreciate you sharing that. One of the
yeah,
things I always say is what I consider, I definitely have mental health issues.
yeah,
I mean, I'm the son of a full-blown junkie from the 1970s South Bronx, came home from Vietnam all jacked up. I say I lived with PTSD my whole life, and no one ever realized it. And then I have all these other issues that if you know me, you just know I'm a little off center.
yeah.
And our first show, shout out to my buddy Sean from well, you know what, Sean, I miss you, man. I just want to make that clear. You've been quiet, so reach out to me. But our first episode was on mental health issues,
Yeah.
and I think that it's anyone that has multiple snakes and reptiles. There's something wrong with us.
Oh,
Okay.
absolutely. We're all kind of a little fucked.
So there's definitely something wrong with us, and I think it's okay, and I'm just glad that we live in a world where it's okay to say that you have, mental health issues, and we're able to discuss them publicly without having to get into details. But for me, and there's many people that have been that have viewed this show, and have shared whatever issues they have. Um, and they say that having these animals and having these snakes and reptiles, they say pretty much saved their life. And for me, it's a huge stress relief. Like,
Yep.
yeah, it's a pain in the ass cleaning 100 tubs with shit and other stuff, but there's that sense of accomplishment. I actually look forward not to cleaning the shit. No, I don't look forward to that, but I look forward to seeing certain animals, even with 100 plus, snakes. I look forward today. I want to see this one,
Yeah.
and as similar as they are, they have different personalities. Like today,
Yes.
I'll post a picture tomorrow of two champagnes that we have that a good friend of mine. I call her my snake wife. Steve had given my son,
Oh,
and they're still in quarantine, and they're both nasty, nasty. They're still very, very
oh,
nasty
oh,
animals. So they have, but I was in the mood to see them today, and my son handles them really, really well. He's much better than I am. Um, but my buddy Sean, Sean, I hope you're watching. Like I said, you've been quiet, and I respect that. But Leopard Genetics, my buddy Sean from Leopard Genetics and I, we started this episode number 1 before we were even on YouTube, Instagram, was about dealing with mental health issues, and this doesn't help.
No,
Your situation doesn't help.
no. I've been in and out of the doctor multiple times since this has started to just try different medications, and just because I was doing really good too, which sucks, and this just kind of set it all really far fucking back.
I can imagine. I can imagine. So where are we today? Where are we? It's April 5th. This happened Valentine's Day. Where are we? Where is Sydney today? And what how are we moving forward? What are the next steps?
Well, I mean, I don't want to say too much just in case Bob, which he will eventually find this because he's seen every little thing I've posted. To keep it short, I've been in contact with a lot of people, especially over in Oklahoma, regarding
Which is where his facility is located.
Basically, it's regarding like pressing charges. I've contacted the Oklahoma City Animal Welfare Group. They're opening a case on their end as well. We've contacted the Better Business Bureau, which he of course denied everything to them, but we're still opening a case through them. PETA is slowly but surely getting involved. I'm talking to the US Art Group. Basically anybody that'll fucking listen to me regarding this, I'm telling them. Because I mean, like that, when it comes to mites that are transporting IBD, which was confirmed, I don't even fucking want to know what happens in his facility. Actually, 1 second, can I step out? We don't have to. I can leave this here. My phone is at like 2%.
Yep.
Sure. 2 seconds. I'm gonna grab a charger. I'll be right back.
So guys, as she gets a charger, we're gonna continue. I know this is usually an hour show, but this is it's crazy, it's sad, it's so many things. Let's just make sure that we remember. She mentioned USARC. USARC is not a trend. This isn't something that you just jump on and grab your pom poms and cheer and continue to spread awareness of USARC. We're still fighting so many different attempts at legislation that hurts us. Rough topic. This is definitely a rough topic. This I would definitely consider the ugly in the reptile community. Definitely a rough topic. But do me a favor, go smash the like button. Don't do it for me. Do it for Sydney and for her having the courage to expose this situation, knowing that there would be repercussions, knowing that there'd be retaliation. You don't go up against a name like Bob Clark and there not be retaliation. And for all of you, hundreds of people that have been giving an outpouring of support, kudos to you. This is how we make the reptile community better. We do have to police ourselves, but it's sad when we do have to reach out to outside entities to help us in these situations. So for all of you that have been showing support and encouraging Sydney, continue to do so. And for those of you that don't understand the gravity of this situation, this is no different compared to other very, very well-known people, athletes, celebrities that at some point show us their true colors. It hurts. I'm one that can say that when it first happened, I wanted to believe this is bullshit. This girl is crazy. This is just another person trying to attack a well-known name in the hobby. But there's just so many things that have been presented that you have to accept this is reality. And it's sad when you see a hero that's not what you thought they were. They're no longer a hero. When that cape comes off, it's not a hero anymore, and this is a sad case. So Sydney's back, so we're gonna head back and bring it back on. So go smash the likes button, guys. We're right there. We're only like 5 people away from the 1,000 subscriber mark so we could have that mega giveaway. At least 10 snakes are being given away on the mega giveaway. So if you haven't smashed the sub button yet, you're a creep. You're a fucking creep. I told you. Stop watching my show and not hitting the sub button because you know you're watching it. All right. Stop being a creep. I have thousands and thousands and thousands of watch hours. Stop being a creep. Come out the closet, you creep. All right, let's go. All right. All right. Sorry, I had to just yap a little.
That's okay.
So where are we? Where are we? You've reached out to these groups now. Now we do have to be mindful that you're opening up other cans of worms here.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm sure there's going to be backlash because it's kind of like sometimes things can get out of control.
Yes.
But then this is one of those situations that I would say you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
Exactly.
So others have come out, others have or are wanting to join you in this endeavor.
Yes.
So it looks like, you know, it's going to be a little bit of a rocky road for Bob Clark's reptiles.
Yeah.
But that wasn't your intention.
No. My main goal behind even just my initial review was just to warn other people so they wouldn't end up in the situation that I'm in. My initial, even then, I was hoping that with me posting it, maybe he'd unblock me and try to make it right. That was the biggest thing. If I could even scroll back and look through comments, basically me being like, I just want him to unblock me or let me talk to him on the phone or just try to make some sort of resolution just to get some fucking help.
Yeah. He pissed off the wrong person. He pissed off the wrong girl.
He pissed off the wrong bitch. No, when it comes to my animals, dude, I don't take that shit lightly. I mean, going back to the mental health thing, they're everything. I've said this a million times. I don't think I'd still be here today if it wasn't for my fucking room with critters.
And that is not an isolated sentiment.
Nope.
Many people have said that, from people that have been former drug addicts to have dealt, you know, to have dealt with their own battles. They say that once they discovered this hobby and these animals, that it saved their life. And if you cannot relate to that, it's okay. It's okay if you don't understand that. It's okay if you can't relate to that. Just respect it. That's all.
Absolutely.
That's all. You don't have to relate. Just respect and understand that it's true, and it's done it for many people. And this is why I keep saying, guys, USARC is not a trend, and we need to continue to spread awareness because our rights are always being threatened with legislation. And I always say, if you follow the money, there's always a bigger agenda. Mm-hmm. All right, so Sydney, how does this end?
I wish I knew. I mean, I'm hoping that, you know, if things go the way that I want them to, I'll be able to face him in court and make him look me in the fucking eye and hear me out in person. You know, hopefully he can see the fucking pain that he's brought into my life. Not only my life, my boyfriend's life, you know, the snakes in that room, there's a couple are his too. You know, I've had a lot of people message me explaining their situations. There's a couple people that are actually currently waiting back on an arenavirus test because they had gotten snakes around the same time I did that are showing symptoms as well. You know, I've said it to Bob. I've said it to his manager that's privately reached out to me. You know, imagine if that snake ended up in the home of, you know, a single mother that just put her life savings into reptile breeding to support her family and it kills everything off. You know, what if it went to someone whose depression is a little bit worse than mine and, you know, their snakes are their everything. It went to their home and killed everything off and that was their last reason to be alive. You know, it could have went a lot fucking worse. And I tried to make it right. I tried reaching out to Bob, but he had blocked me on everything. And it wasn't until it got to the point, honestly, I'd say it was as soon as we were able to pinpoint the Nicole Johnson profile as Bob, and that I realized that this is just a fucking joke to him. and it's all about the money, then I was like, fuck this. It's not about the money at this point. It's just about doing what's right. You hear stories of, animal neglect and animal abuse and these people getting locked up for fucking years because of the shit that he's doing. And I don't feel like it's right to just let that shit slide. And I had a lot of people tell me, like, there's no point. He's such a big name. But if I don't even try, the least I could do is put it out there and hopefully warn a couple people about what's going on to save their collection. If that's the minimal thing that happens from this, I'll fucking take it. I've already gotten probably close to 50 messages from people being like, thank you. I was about to buy a snake. My snakes are everything just as they are to me. And, you possibly could have just saved my collection. That right there, if this doesn't end up any more severe on his end, I'll fucking take it. Because I wouldn't wish this.
Let me ask you this, Sydney. If I'm Bob Clark and I apologize, is this over now?
I don't think it is. Especially with the fact that he keeps deflecting every bit of evidence. And with the way that the mites are, and we're on that snake, and from what I've heard are in his facility, and the fact that my snake tested positive for IBD, chances are there's other snakes in that facility. And he has made no effort to even just tell people, like, this is what it was. I'm going to do the proper steps to test the rest of my collection and, go accordingly what the results are to make sure that this doesn't happen to anybody else. He doesn't give a shit. As long as he makes his couple $100 off of these auctions or selling whatever and just getting it out of his facility.
Oh, he makes more than a couple $100.
Yeah. I mean, you see some of those $10,000 snakes. I mean, at this point, he's, especially with the post that he had made trying to expose me and the harassment and the misogyny and just everything, this dude has proven that he truly does not give a shit. And I feel like at this point, it's not just me that he owes an apology to. I feel like there's a lot more people out there that are going to either are currently suffering. I know a couple that have been messaging me and sending me videos of snakes that look even a little bit worse than mine. There's a lot of people that he's going to owe a very, very big apology to, especially if it goes a little bit more south, like it's looking like it's going to.
Okay, so there's a few possible scenarios, right?
Yes.
Right. So one scenario is nothing else happens, and like you said, at least you prevented a few other people from going through your experience. Okay?
Yeah.
Which is a positive takeaway. So
yeah,
that's worst case scenario.
Yeah.
What if you are the person to bring down Bob Clark? How do you think about that, and how that may affect you in the future? Reptile shows, being known, Sydney B, the girl that stung Bob Clark. The newspaper headline there.
Oh,
Sydney
God.
B, the girl that stung. And I have to say girl because he kept referring to everybody as girl, girl, girl.
Yeah.
So have you thought about that, and are you willing to carry that burden and deal with that? Because that's kind of huge.
I mean, I guess I haven't thought about it to that extreme too much, because the odds of that happening are, I feel, more slim than any other outcome. I mean, if it was to get to the point where, they are able to go into his facility and they find, what's in there, and they shut him down, I mean, I know I'm going to get hate. I've already gotten hate from a lot of people that follow him. I've been called, like I said, just about every fucking name in the book from people that follow him. I mean, even on like the reports, I will post the screenshots of it, every single thing that was listed on, the autopsy report, whether it was the IBD, it stated that she had 0% body fat. She was completely emaciated. And on that post, people are like, you're a dumb bitch. You're a fucking idiot. Like, the proof is here. Like, if I feel like if people only have names to call or death threats or fucking whatever as a comeback to the evidence that I've posted of what I've experienced, fucking whatever. I've been through worse.
I talk about the hypocrisy of the reptile community all the time, and there's another topic that I'll be addressing that surfaced this week in another show. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to the big names, the hypocrisy is there, where if this situation happened with anyone, any non well known individual,
Hmm.
okay? If this situation took place, there'd be a lynch mob,
Yeah.
okay? But because it's a pioneer, it's the pioneer, because it's Bob Clark, it's kind of like people have looked the other way for decades.
Yeah.
And now people are starting to say, hey, this is serious. Um, I just wanna tell you, we're gonna wrap it up, and I just want to tell you that I think you're brave. I think that this this hill that you've decided to die on is worth dying on, okay?
Absolutely.
And I think that based on the support that I've seen so far, and it seems to be uh, huge, like the amount of support you're receiving is huge.
Yeah.
I think that you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
Um,
And if like I said, I'd rather, if someone wants to send me a fucking shitty DM on Facebook because they're mad that I exposed their fucking hero, if that means I save a million other fucking snakes in the meantime, I'll take it. I expected at some point to get some hate regarding this, but I feel
well,
like
keep
at the end of the day, I
searching.
did the right.
That'll be another episode where we get to share all the idiots out there
Oh
that
yeah.
support misogynists, that support animal abusers, that
Yeah.
support this type of behavior. And again, don't get stuck on the name. We're not looking at the person. We're looking at the actions of this person. It just happens to be tied into a very well-known name. And me, I've never given two shits what anybody thinks about me. Probably
Exactly.
why I haven't hit 1,000 subscribers yet. I don't kiss anyone's ass, and nothing that Bob Clark or any other well-known breeder or big name in this industry is gonna do is gonna affect my livelihood. So I'm okay.
I
I'm all
got
right.
thick skin too. I'm not so worried about it. If I was worried about it, I wouldn't have made the post in the first place. Like I said,
Well,
I've told people I'll walk
does it
my
make
happy
it tough
ass
to
out to the
tattoo?
police. I don't give a shit.
Does that thick skin make it tough to tattoo?
No, I'll take it. I mean, I don't like the pain as much, but I'll take
Well,
it.
listen, Sydney. You're again huge thank you. I think many people have wanted to do what you're doing and just didn't have the strength and the courageousness to do it. And honestly, I'm so like, we live in this PC world, then you get these movements and I don't want to relate this to a Me Too movement, but I can see where others will come out
Yeah.
of the shadows and share their stories. And even if we're talking about just getting it off their chest,
Yeah.
because they didn't have the strength or the courageousness to fight this fight. So definitely, I take my hat off to you for that. I thank you for coming here and sharing your story. I know it's heart wrenching and it's far from over.
Yeah.
And again, guys, continue to show that support. She's doing something that some of you will never do in your life, and if you don't fight, if you don't have a reason to fight, usually you just lay down for everything. So I wish you the best outcomes in this
Thank,
scenario, and most importantly, that you just find your sanity in this situation. Doesn't
thank
matter
you.
what anybody else thinks. It's what makes you feel sane, and that you did what you needed to do, and that it all works out. So I want to
Absolutely.
thank you for giving me the gift of time. I want to wish everyone else a great day. Make it a terrific day. And before we sign off, I just want to share real quick great gratitude and thanks to our show's sponsor.